yesterday, Trump, sorry. That was for real, I'm sorry. He even surprised some Republicans with sweeping pardons to the January 6th insurrectionists, including Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other violent rioters. But he wasn't thrilled about Biden issuing pardons of his own on the way out. Take a look.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Should there be punishment for the people who assaulted law enforcement officers that day?
Well, I will say this. They've been in jail for a long time already. What they've done to these people is outrageous. I was surprised that President Biden would go and pardon his whole family, because that makes him look very guilty. And how about this J6 committee? Why is he pardoning them? They were guilty as hell. They rigged it. It was a rigged deal.
So in Trump's world, the lawmakers trying to protect democracy are thugs, and the lawbreakers are hostages. Do I have that right?
You have it right, yes.
Okay.
That's
your thoughts.
Well, he clearly doesn't know what a hostage is, because there are still hostages right now in the Middle East. They were terrorized by Hamas and have not all come back. So that's a hostage. You can't use that term loosely. These people committed crimes.
It's kind of tacky right now in particular.
Especially right now, but this is the justice system at work. When we talk about guardrails, you said no one's there to check him. His own vice president, J.D. Vance, said a week ago that if you committed violence on that day, January 6th, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. His attorney general last week said, I condemn any violence on a law enforcement officer in this country. 60% of Americans don't agree with pardoning them. This was the biggest middle finger he could give the entire country out of all of his options.
But law enforcement in particular, and he ran on this, I'm going to be a law and order president, which a lot of the Republican Party runs on that platform. And so I think it's really disgraceful that
sorry,
he would
don't you
do
think
that.
the whole panel sitting there should have burst out laughing at that moment?
Really,
like
they
Hillary
really should
started
have.
laughing at some point. I started laughing
Hillary
too.
I'm mad at all the pardons yesterday, well, save for two. Listen, we knew the January 6th pardons were coming. That was good. I disagree with it. I think it's dangerous. I think it's reckless. I fear that some of these people may commit crimes in the future. Sure. I think it was prudent that Joe Biden preemptively pardoned people like Dr. Fauci and Mark Milley, who are political targets for Donald Trump. He has expressed that. I was floored that Joe Biden pardoned his whole family, and let me tell you why. He's either, the most charitable interpretation is the Titanic is sinking, I've got a life raft for my family, but anyone else who challenged Trump, you better swim or you're drowning. That's my most charitable interpretation. And finally, he didn't do anything to protect people who testified against Donald Trump unless they happen to be wrapped up with the police officers. And it sets a very dangerous precedent. Now Donald Trump can basically advise staff and his family to do anything unlawful and then just issue a blanket pardon when he leaves office. I think it was disgraceful, and it's going to harm his legacy.
I think comparing Biden's pardons to Trump's is like comparing apples to Volkswagens.
Seems really similar when Jared
it does not seem similar to me, because Joe Biden's family and the people he pardoned in the January 6th committee have not actually committed crimes. He is trying to prevent them from spending the rest of their lives fighting the government, which is no easy feat. I also think that no Republican, and nobody who stood up on January 6th and January 7th and condemned what happened there, which was an act of treason. It was an insurrection. I don't care what you're going to call it. I don't care how you want to whitewash it. Nobody who stood up and condemned that and is today silent after those pardons should be able to look at themselves in the mirror, because you have no morals. You have absolutely
Biden hung some
no
folks out to dry who did speak out on January 6th, and he didn't help them.
I just wanted to just put a quick button on it, because I was not offended by Biden pardoning his family, because I think, just like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right.
We've already had a Trump presidency. We know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man. And if I can protect me and mine, I would do that. And so I think we need to show Joe Biden some grace. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about that a lot of people are talking about is that there are these black performers. You mentioned that there were entertainers at the inauguration. There are these black performers that were performing for Snoop Dogg, Nelly, a couple of others. And I saw Keith Boykin, a friend of mine, say something that I thought was really important, and I wanted to play that clip.
If you look at Donald Trump, the man who would refuse to rent to black people in the 1970s, who tried to lead a lynch mob against 5 black and brown kids in the 1980s for the Central Park case, who refused to allow black casino workers to have a prominent place in his casinos in Atlantic City in the 1990s, who spent 5.5 years lying about Barack Obama's birth certificate in the 2000s, who came into office and then attacked black people like Colin Kaepernick, who attacked Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss for simply doing their jobs as Fulton County election workers. You dishonor those people when you go and perform for this man who has done nothing but dishonor black people.
So, you know, for me, even though I didn't watch any of the balls or anything, I think what Keith said is so important for us to remember, that this is who Donald Trump is.
So you're saying that those two guys should not be?
No, it was more than the two
normalized?
of them. But
It's more
listen,
than
I
the
think
two of them.
it was them, and it was so many other people. The thing that really I think was spotlighting Snoop is because of the things that Snoop Dogg said 10 days before the inaugural in 2017. And so look, if you opposed and stood up against Trump in 2017, but you were there now, if you spoke up against Trump January 7th, 2021, but you were there now applauding him like a trained seal, Donald Trump has not changed. You've changed.
Yeah. I oddly agreed with Ilhan Omar on this. I think it's the first time I've agreed with her. I don't come for the artist. It's the same way I felt about Carrie Underwood. I think that people see it as part of American tradition to be part of this. They can issue statements if they want to clarify what their views are on Trump. I don't like coming for the artist. I think if you feel like people need to be boycotting Donald Trump, which I disagree with, I'd go to the politicians. I mean, if Barack Obama can show up for him, why shouldn't Snoop Dogg?
No, but I disagree on the politicians, because if you are a Democrat and you did not vote for this, but you have to work with them for the next 4 years, you do not have to smile, you do not have to stand up and clap, you don't have to do crap, but you will be in those offices come Tuesday at work, and I want to know you know how to work with them. If you're representing me, you should be there. Artists are there for the money, and at the end of the day, am I going to fault them? They're there for the money.
But you know what? Just one thing regarding the whataboutism involving the pardons that you were talking about. 4 Trump supporters were killed that day, and 5 police officers. It's not the same as pardoning.
But also just one Trump supporter was killed, Ashley Babbitt.
Oh, that's so my research.
No, I
is
don't even know
incorrect?
that it's the same. I deeply worry
All right,
about
whoever, how many it was. The point is, people died that day.
My fear
I don't
is
believe Hunter Biden was responsible for anybody's
That's not
death.
my point. My fear is the precedent it's set, because I think Biden holds himself on this certain moral high ground, and he's setting a very dangerous precedent.
Against
that's
a very dangerous man.
Yes, that's going to allow that man to basically give blanket pardons to anyone who chooses to
But he would
commit
do it
crimes.
anyway. He would do it anyway.
But now he can say he did it too.
He had been promising to do it this entire time, right? Regardless of what
I've never
Biden
heard
has.
Donald Trump say Valerie Biden's name. This feels way too sweeping to me. Hunter, I think you could debate, was he going to target him, was he not? This is the spouses, the bro. Like, I'm like, what?
Oh, I think he's
it's
vengeful enough
I think
to
it's
do
Okay,
that.
well, the resistance has begun.